Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Dalles Chamber of Community Affairs. Today, our guest is Dawn Rasmussen. She is running for the Congressional District 2 for the U.S. House of Representatives. That is a mouthful. Basically, she wants to help be our voice for this and many other areas. So before we go into Dawn presenting and letting us know all those different things, we're going to go around the room. I'm pretty sure she knows everybody, but we're doing this because this is also being recorded so that we can let people know who we are and who's on here. So I'm going to start with the person who can never retire, Scott McKay. Can you hear
Good
me,
morning,
Scott?
everyone. Good morning. I actually have retired and I'm just volunteering now, so I'm staying quite busy. But, I'm just thinking, Lisa, that I'm having a more difficult time getting up at the regular time because of being so dark now. It's much easier getting up at 5 o'clock, 5:30 or whatever when it's light outside. But I'm making it. So, as I was saying, Scott
Okay.
McKay, I'm a volunteer now for Circles of Care, which is an initiative that connects older adults with volunteers to provide some sort of periodic support. It's run by Age Plus, which is a statewide nonprofit to help support older adults. And we are working on a dementia-friendly Wasco County partnership initiative here in Wasco County. Understanding that about 10% of those folks 65 and older have some level of dementia and may be very may not be that significant, where many people with dementia can live independently and carry on with support from the community. So that's it. Thank you. And
Thanks. Darcy Long.
Good morning. My name is Darcy Long. I am a board member with Columbia Gorge Community College, and I am also have my own business, Empower Financial, and I am an independent agent with Experior Financial Group.
Thank you. Roger, I know you don't need an intro, but we would like one.
Oh, thank you so much. Roger Nichols, sort of semi-retired and still freelancing for a whole bunch of people, including the Columbia Gorge News, the Golden Dale Sentinel, Y102, and writing for the Ruralite once a month. But I just wanted to share that yesterday at the Wasco County Commission meeting, they had a report from Sheriff Leigh McGill, who is the deputy incident commander for the Rowena fire. He reported that they're getting ready they've done phase 1 pretty much, which was actually taking away the hazardous material, and they're looking for debris cleanup. And there's some back and forth with the state, which has kind of agreed to do a scope of work. Well, the county has said they would present a scope of work that's about $3.2 million, and the state is looking at a much larger thing that would cost more than $5 million, and this county is saying very specifically, if you come back with that additional, you get to pay for it all and run it, because we're not going to do it. So it's unfortunate to have that struggle back and forth. There should be a quick and easy. I will say, though, that the night before that, there was a special meeting, the Wasco County Planning Commission, with an update on all the things that are going on, and a presentation that is linked on our website, gorgenewscenter.com. You can hear that whole thing that they did, that Kelly Housley Glover did, and Christina Volniakowski of the Gorge Commission was right alongside her, agreeing with everything. So big vote coming up in the Gorge Commission in November. Thanks.
Thank you. David Peters.
I got a pop-up right when that happened. Yeah, so Dave Peters, Columbia Cascade Housing, Mid-Columbia Housing Authority. We're working on a project in Hood River. I'm sure you've heard of Mariposa Village, and it's going to be 130, I think, 134 apartments. And then we're also got the funding, I think, a complete package for a project the Chenoweth area where DeHart's Market used to be. It's going to be, I think it was 76 apartments. So some big developments coming up. And then we're also working
wow.
on, in my end, more the homeownership side with Community Land Trust. We have an application in to develop 14 homes in Carson. And we are working to resubmit another application here in the Dalles for four homes that'll be sold sort of like condos. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, Tanya Rumley.
Good morning, Tanya Brumley with Northwest Natural.
Thank you. All right, and I know you know me, so the Dalles Chamber. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Dawn and let this go away. And definitely, this is an interactive, so please ask questions. I know this lady; she's going to want you to interact with her and ask questions and give her comments, suggestions, and whatever the topic might be. So I'm going to let her take over, and I will watch for hands and for chat.
Thanks, Lisa. My name is Dawn Rasmussen, and I'm running against Cliff Bentz. And more importantly, I am not running as a Democrat as much as I am running as an Oregonian. I think a lot of people are concerned about what's been going on. They're fearful. And I got to be honest, it's not just Democrats. There's a lot of Republicans I've been talking to that are concerned about all the different things that are coming down from the federal government. And so my background, just so you know a little bit about me, is I came to the Dalles 9 years ago. I've been involved in the community. I've worked with Lisa at the Chamber on the Ag, Food, Wine, and Agricultural Committee, and we also produced the Farm to Fork dinner. That was a while ago now. And I've also been involved with the Fort Dalles Museum on the board there, as well as the board of the Dalles Farmers Market as well. And currently I'm still an admin for the Columbia Gorge Wildland Fire and Information page. You may know that. We were there around before even Watch Duty started, and the founder of the group, Mac, stepped away. So I'm pretty much the lead admin to add to all my many things that I have going on. But we have about 40,000 people that follow us, and we're getting out first information that's verified about fires and what's going on. And so I was actually the lead on the Rowena fire. Once it got started, I was following that real time and providing updates on our page. So a lot of these fires feel pretty personal to me because of that information. And, you know, it's kind of tragic to see it heading towards residential areas, knowing that folks are going to be losing their homes and a lot of other things. So anyway, what prompted me to run, my concern has been that we're seeing kind of a slide, well, actually are seeing a slide into an area of that the United States has not really experienced before, when we have a lot of branches of government that are pretty much giving up control and their oath to the government and following a single individual. And that's not how our democracy was built. I'm concerned about the economic ripples going throughout the district. Specifically, in my discussions, I'm talking to a lot of farmers and ranchers. There's one rancher I spoke to that's a wheat farmer, and they are actually had to take out a $500,000 loan just to cover their business costs. They're not clearing any money with their business. So at this point, when you have the compounding of lack of labor for harvests, you have increasing fuel costs, inflation costs, and then you have, you know, the cost of equipment with tariffs on it, and then reverse on that as far as tariffs on exports, and exports not happening. We just saw how much the soybeans just went to Argentina, and I'm sorry, Argentina is sending their soybeans over to China, and that was one of our biggest partners for a lot of areas in the United States. But specifically for the wheat farmers, our soft winter wheat is also an export to Southeast Asia, and the market has collapsed there. So it's not looking good for farmers with all the things that are going on. I'm also concerned about healthcare. This is the poorest district in Oregon. And when we have people being kicked off of Medicaid, and also, I don't know if you're aware, but with the reason why the Democrats are not agreeing to the resolving the government shutdown is that there are some tax credits that if they are not extended, the healthcare costs will go up 75% for people on the ACA. And so that is a huge issue because people just simply can't afford that. With that combined are the small rural hospitals, and ours is not immune here in the Dalles, but we have small rural hospitals that do depend on getting a lot of Medicaid to help underwrite their bottom line. And when that goes away, we have problems with the rural hospitals closing. And we know that John Day Hospital already had to reduce their workforce by 9 people. Madras is at risk. And even here in the Dalles, the Adventist Hospital, Mid-Columbia Medical Center is also under threat of having to reduce their staffing. So, you know, most people, they don't have helicopter insurance, nor could they afford it if it's a life flight situation. But if you have a heart attack and you're out in the middle of nowhere, or you're chopping wood and you injure your foot and you're bleeding, if there's a hospital 3 hours away, that's not going to help you. You may have to be forced to make some very heartbreaking decisions. So I just see Oregonians being hurt by the current administration, specifically Cliff Bentz helped author a lot of this. And the fact that Cliff Bentz is not even responding to his constituents, that's a problem too. You don't get to choose who you hear from. You know, if you're a representative, you have to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it means having courage and showing up. And he's not doing that. So I have a problem with that. And when you don't have representation, then you don't have voices represented in Congress. And that's where I'm coming from. I want to represent people's voices. And another thing that I will share as well is that there are 2 other registered candidates on the Democrat side for this primary coming up in May 2026. And we are talking about party unity. We're not going to be campaigning negatively against each other. The idea is we have to get Bentz out of the office. So whoever wins the primary, the rest of us will drop out and endorse them. I've also spoken to another Republican candidate running against Bentz who is being primaried. So there will be, she hasn't registered yet, but there are going to be 3 people primarying Bentz. And she and I spoke, and she understands what's at stake. And so we actually may even have an opportunity to have one debate together and show the leadership that we want to see. That's not us versus them, it's everyone. And so it's a more of a collaborative approach. I think we're all sick of negative campaigning. And when we can show the kind of leadership and have a civil discourse, I think that says messages, that has a very strong message about what kind of people we would be in office. So I'm just sort of excited about that, because it's tearing people down is never a positive thing. I can't see where it's ever really worked that well. But it's certainly patriotic. Patriotic is it's patriotic to dissent, and so I dissent with how Bentz has been running his his campaign and also his work in Congress. So anyway, so that's kind of a little bit about me. And like I said, I do want to make sure that I chat with everyone here to find out what's on your mind, what's concerning you. This is super important because I need to be informed as a candidate, and everyone in here are the voices of the community. So if anybody would like to chat, I'm open and I can share my viewpoints, but more importantly, this is listening to hear what's on your mind. So I'm opening it up.
So if I can be the first, because I'm not bashful.
Okay.
Never been a problem with me. I guess I'm looking for your quick, your video, your audio clips, your 5 talking points that are the top of the game for you. You want to make sure you get in every interview and every chance.
Okay. Well, I am concerned about agriculture. I mean, I talked about agriculture already. I talked about healthcare. I'm also worried about pocketbook issues. Everybody here has probably seen how much gas has gone up, groceries have gone up, everything is going up. I've been going out to meet people, and oftentimes that involves a meal, and it's still pretty shocking. You know, I respect the fact that restaurateurs need to make a living, but when a breakfast is $30 and this is just a regular place, that's kind of steep. But I understand why they're having to raise their prices. They're not in it to be a nonprofit. They have to make a profit. When their costs go up, they have to charge other people. So it's hitting everybody everywhere. So just those basic pocketbook issues. And, I'm really concerned about taking the food assistance away from the SNAP benefits from people that are the most vulnerable. That's not, you're basically, every single policy now is targeting the people that have the least amount to give. And so when we're raising taxes on the bottom 20% of the population, giving tax breaks to the top 1%, this is topsy-turvy. We're not having economic benefit here, it's economic harm. So those are my top ones that I've already mentioned. Thanks, Roger. Any other questions or thoughts that are on your mind? What are you seeing out there? Darcy?
Thanks. So one of the things that we recently learned at the college is that we have lost our Title III funding. And so we're already having word coming down from the state of Oregon that there's going to be budget cuts. And of course, now we've lost funding at the federal level. So I guess I want to know your thoughts on that and what you would do at the national level to help those things that impact us greatly here in the local area.
Thank you. That's a great question. So, in general, when you have the reduction of grants to education, that means there's only one place to get the money, it's to raise the costs. And when college is already beyond a lot of people's means, and especially with community colleges, they're a stepping stone. I'm seeing a lot of people taking 2 years of community college, getting the transfer credits, and then going to a 4-year to finish up their last 2 years. And so it's been an economical stepping stone. But when community colleges lose their funds, then they're going to hike prices. What happens in that place is oftentimes predatory colleges will come in and try to, get students, and they end up defrauding them and this actually takes away from access to federal loans for a lot of graduate students. So at the federal level, everything you do at the federal level, it's not just one person. You can certainly sponsor a bill, but it's going to take finding your allies that would be able to support your line of thinking. So part of it is understanding and connecting with those that are also feeling that same way, and coming up with legislation that will find ways to restore that funding. I mean, right now everything's being yanked, and I'm not sure where all the money's going at the federal government, except for maybe buildups. So I'm not sure. So we have to advocate for our local community college. It's a vital pipeline for students, and it's also not just for education for white collar careers. In a lot of cases, the education is for blue collar careers, which also provide really great living and wages for living. So it's really the future of our workforce that we have to invest in. I believe that is the core of having happy, healthy communities. Other questions? Yes, Dave. Yes, thank you.
Hey there. So you may have already talked to Karen, my boss, the executive director, but keep in mind housing. HUD has cut some of their funding. In our little organization here, we send out over about $750,000 a month to rent, assist people with rent, and most of that goes to private people. So, private homeowners that are renting a house or even a room. Now HUD allows that. So make sure you reach out. I can put my contact information. You can reach out to me, and you may have already talked to Karen. I'm out of kind of that level. I'm stepping back, joining Scott and Roger in retirement here before too long, but you'll reach out to me and I'll get you hooked up with Karen. Thanks.
That would be great, Dave. If you could pop your contact information in the chat, I'll definitely follow up with you. And housing is a concern. I've been noticing when I moved to the Dalles 9 years ago that there's kind of a latent hostility towards people that are houseless here. And I think it may even extend back to the Rajneeshi era when they brought in people from Portland. And I've seen a lot of comments in the Facebook group saying, oh, they're just busing the houseless here to the Dalles. And I think that may be a holdover from that. But, every community struggles now. And I can tell you that it's increased. I mean, everybody's seen it. And I know Dave and all his organization are absolutely trying to solve that as much as they can. But when you take money away from housing, that just means there's less housed people. And when you have less housed people that have no opportunities, then it's detrimental to the community in a lot of different ways. So for me, I've always said no one grows up wanting to be houseless. It's not a life goal. There's a lot of things that lead up to that moment when someone loses housing and shelter. And we have to look at what can we do to get them off the streets, and then from there move forward and help them, give them the resources. And of course we want to make sure that they're invested in the process as much as we are, but and also there's a lot of mental illness and trauma out there too, so we have to understand what are those root causes and how do we handle some of those things as far as houseless. But it's really sad to see how many people are falling houseless, and I think that's directly tied to also housing prices. We all know that the Dalles is getting higher and higher and higher, and it's been creeping from Portland all the way out here, and it's here. I know from my own home, from what I purchased, I sold my very small, modest home in Portland 9 years ago. When I moved here, I bought a house that was fairly modestly priced, and the real estate values tripled. That's good for me, but it's not good for any first-time home buyers in the area. So I'm concerned about that. I see it as a community necessity to try to find housing alternatives, and that's where I'll be fighting for additional funding and restoration of any funding that's been rescinded. It looks like, Roger, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry again. I just want to relate a little incident that may be appropriate.
Okay.
For District 2, way back when, there was actually a Democrat named Al Ullman, who was the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, thought he was invulnerable. And a Republican named Bob Smith ran an ad in which he showed a post office box in either Ontario or La Grande, one of those places, said this is Al Ullman's only connection to Oregon. He doesn't live here anymore. He's an inside Washington guy, and he lost. So it may be something to report. And that is why Senator Wyden came in after that and started the every county, every year town hall one-on-one answering questions. That may be useful.
Thank you, Roger. And I am doing that. Actually, I've already been out to Wallowa County, and I've been down to Medford, and I'm heading out to Harney County and Grant County. I'm trying to hit as many counties before the snow flies, because as we know, some of those passes can be a little tricky going over in the winter. But absolutely. And, one of the things, thanks to Lisa, and she's going to perk up like she's saying my name. Thanks to Lisa, and I understand how important chambers of commerce are to communities, and they are also the voice of the business community. So not only am I meeting with county Democrat organizations, but I'm also reaching out to the chambers to meet with the chamber folks. They have their finger on the pulse of the area, but I'm also reaching out to nonprofits and community leaders and just ordinary citizens. I want to know what's on people's minds, and that's part of the listing part of my tool. And you know what, as a candidate, I'm a newbie at this. I'm finding out that you can change your position a little bit more, and smart people do, because the more they learn, the better formed they are, and the way they can better understand how to represent that voice in Washington. So being accessible, number one, and number two, actually listening to the people is another part that's super important. Thank you for your point, Roger. Any other questions? Scott.
And Don, this is Scott McKay again. We listened to Cliff Bentz when he came to the Dalles and spoke at the Rotary. I'm not sure. Roger, were you there at that when he spoke? No. He was very articulate and tried to present his position and the Republican Party, but a couple things that came to me was that he kind of talked about, well, he's only one person, and it's hard to change direction or have an influence on the Republican legislation as only one person. And he tried to say that he wasn't the president, it wasn't Donald Trump, but he was himself. So he tried to make that point. But one of the challenges of that is that the Democrats, I mean, when I was a county commissioner, we had to live within a budget. And that was very difficult. I mean, we had to make some very difficult decisions. And at the federal level, it seems like you can keep spending and spending and spending for all good things. I mean, for good programs and everything. And my concern is that the current administration has an approach that's just more like, the bull in the China factory. I mean, and just kind of have no real thought. They're just going to, cut government and without really thinking about the effects that it has. And I always think there could be, if you're going to need to or reduce or this modify government spending, you need to do it intelligently. So how, as if you were elected as a Democrat and the Democrats took control of the House, how would you affect the direction of the Democratic Party so that it, I think, reflects, second district as far as understanding we do need services, but we also don't want to keep spending, spending, spending all the time.
Yep, that's a great question, multi-prongs there. So let me take a swing at it here. So first of all, I am very fiscally conservative. Things, even just how I run my campaign, I'm asking to be hosted at homes in the district as I travel around, so I'm not spending my campaign money on myself. Conversely, you have somebody like Cliff Bentz, who's he got nailed for being excessive in his spending during the inauguration. There's plenty of media reports about that. When we have imbalances, like calling all of the generals across the globe into DC, what was the cost of that? What could you have done with those monies instead of having a performative, pep talk from the Department of Warhead? There's that. And then when you are deploying troops against Americans and Oregonians in Portland, I mean, they're saying that the cost of that deployment is going to be $3.8 million. So as much as the Republicans like to castigate Democrats for being spenders, what is going on at the federal government is absolute waste. I mean, the military parade, I mean, the list is getting longer and longer about these irresponsible, ego-driven expenditures. And what's happening is that money is being taken away from hardworking people that just need some help. Those are our safety nets. So it's a matter of prioritization. And so I'd be looking at, as an individual, yes, Cliff Bentz, one person. However, he was directly responsible with writing a lot of the healthcare part of the OBB. So he has a lot of skin in the game, as they say. He helped author it. So his fingerprints are all over this. So he is directly responsible for helping author a bill that is probably one of the most dangerous and most damaging bills in the history of the United States. That being said, if I'm elected, I'm going to find the people that are going to be advocates for, budgeting and balancing the budget in a responsible manner. We do have to have safety nets. But it's also figuring out, well, what are the root causes of houselessness and all these other things, the social things that we're dealing with that are detrimental to American society and individuals that are suffering from these things. So we need to figure out what are those root causes and then understand what's going on. When you don't have people that can afford houses, if they don't have a livable wage, what are all these things that are, kind of, what do you call it? The stone, the gathering moss, they're steamrolling into each one of them. So it's going to take a lot more thought and a greater plan. But my job as a representative is to help advocate for that, find the right people, and find ways to write legislation that supports Americans, not hurts them.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. And another question that came up is that he mentioned the fact that if they had not voted for this, the big, beautiful bill, which I get so tired of, but if they didn't vote for that, that would eliminate some tax benefits for small businesses. And he was advocating that by passing that bill, that helps support small businesses. my thought was that you could pass another bill that still could support small businesses and and that and I think it's important to support those businesses, especially the small businesses that are trying to just make it. And with all the regulations and taxes and all that, it makes it more difficult. But how how do you know about the tax benefits that are available for small businesses or and how to maintain those so that those small businesses can thrive?
Well, great question. And I am a small business owner myself, and I'm a small, it's just me. And as of yet, I have not gotten any tax breaks. So I will tell you that. So I have not seen it. I'm still waiting for it. But absolutely, I mean, you know, when all I can do is report what I'm seeing as a small business owner, I've not seen any benefit from it. When I hear that large multinational corporations are getting taxed out, I mean, they're getting tax breaks when large multinational corporations are getting tax breaks, yet, you know, fourth and fifth generation farmers and ranchers, their farms are going up for sale because they can't make it. There's a problem here. And in my mind, you know, agriculture is a business, obviously. And when you have a 55% increase of farms and ranches going bankrupt, you know, we have a problem. That's everything's topsy-turvy. Why are the big companies that have a lot more resources getting more tax breaks when the mom and pop that put food on our tables are actually, you know, looking at financial loss and even closure of their family farms? That's a problem.
Okay. And one more,
No,
just
sure, no problem.
he acknowledged that the excuse me, the big beautiful bill would affect medical hospitals in rural Oregon, and he was going to talk with those hospitals to see how the federal government could help support them. Excuse me. From my understanding from 2 weeks ago, he hasn't reached out to Adventists yet to find out how to support. Have you been able to reach out to the rural hospitals and to understand this situation, how to support them? Because, like you said, they're critical to the health and well-being of our citizens.
They are on my list. I've only been doing this for a month, so there are other folks that are in the Democrat primary. There's one person who's been running since May, so I am. It is on my list. It's on my radar. There's many things that I'm systematically going through as I've organized my campaign. Mainly, I've been focusing on getting my name out there and fundraising and building infrastructure so that I can campaign effectively. And so now it's going out to all the stakeholders, and hospitals are on that list. And when I go to John Day, I will be going to the Grant County Blue Mountain Hospital in John Day to talk to them.
Okay.
Absolutely. And of course, locally here too. Yes, Roger.
Okay, a couple of more quick questions, then I do have to go. One is, have you got any endorsements yet? You rung up any of those?
I have two people, and they're one is one was a former candidate, and another one has been a politician, and we have not determined an official date to announce those. And I'm working through those endorsements. Like I said, I've only been doing this a month, so it's been a race. And plus, I have to run my own business, so I'm learning to balance everything out.
Okay, well, I just wanted to share the background about, Adventist is asked to reduce the beds. I did talk to a doctor off the record who said he's all for it. And I asked, why? And he said, because I want to have a hospital here still. They're losing $5 million a year. So if we can't get it to a point where we get more input, more money for our Medicare, then it's not going to be able to be here anymore. So that was an eye-opener for me. Also, he said they're not using all the beds they have now. So just a thought.
Okay. I've heard people say that there've been times when they've been full waiting for rooms. So I think it just depends on what's going on. I mean, obviously during COVID, they had a lot of folks there. They were filling up pretty fast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it really kind of seems weird to reduce capacity when populations are growing. On the other hand, if that's for financial survival, you have to balance.
It's
Thanks.
a very difficult decision to be able to do that. So I agreed, we need a hospital here, but the point is we shouldn't have to do this. You know, the hospital should be an institution that we support 100%. We need those.
I agree. I'm leaving now, but I'm leaving the recording on, so see something pithy and wonderful we can quote.
Thanks, Roger. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? What's on your mind? Yes, Darcy.
Two things, I guess. I was actually thinking about this before Scott said anything, but I was thinking in the House, you're one of 435 representatives, and that's a very large number, especially when you're used to working just by yourself. And so I was wondering, with that many people in the House and a real dearth of Democratic leadership, people not really wanting to speak up, or those who do speak up say just sort of not nonsensical things, really. I mean, it doesn't really get to anything. There seems to be a lack of leadership. And so I'm wondering, what would you see, what would you like in an ideal world, like as far as your participation, and what in your professional background, which is pretty varied, would help you achieve that?
Oh, I love that question. Well, this is a time to be brave and speak up. And I like to differentiate myself from the Democrat Party in it that I'm going to speak up. I'm not afraid to speak up. We all have to be brave. And so I am willing to say things and basically point out where I believe we have moral failings and failure to endorse and follow the oath of the Constitution. So I'm going to call it out. But I have partnered with a lot of people back when I worked I worked in tourism before, and I've worked with folks all across the state. Even in my current role, I work with different organizations. So really, at the heart of being a representative, it's going to mean a lot of partnerships. It's going to mean a lot of communication and finding ways to innovate. We can't just stagnate. We have to innovate. And so that's where I feel like it's going to take a lot of forward thinking. I think in a lot of ways, Democrats have been stymied and even gotten in their own way. And so we have to clear the way to move forward. So right now we're in a 5-alarm fire. Everything, every single agency has a head that's systematically destroying that agency. And what we're having is a scorched earth policy on all of the different agencies and basically the government of the United States. So it's going to take people to stand up and speak out and defend those institutions. They're there for a reason. Doesn't mean that there aren't changes that need to happen. I believe that, process improvements are always a good thing. But you got to remember, who are you serving? It's the serving of the people. And when we're looking at right now, everything is starting to harm Americans and harm Oregonians. We have to stand up and reverse that harm and remember that we're there to serve them. We're not there to tell them what to do. And so that's my oath of office, is to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that means also protect and defend the people of the United States through mindful, positive support and looking at the agencies that are in place and legislation to ask ourselves, is this hurting people or is it helping people? And I'd rather be on the side of helping people. Any other questions? Y'all are quiet today.
It is early.
Yeah.
It is early in the mornings.
Yes.
So, all right. So Dawn, one of the biggest things that would be helpful is, I can always get this out later, but if you want to drop your contact information in the chat so that everybody can grab that. So if they have questions later, because we all have that moment, we get home, it's like, I should have asked that. We always have those. I usually have them just 5 minutes too late. Please put your information in there because I know that this group will reach out and ask those questions. And then just remember, and then we'll add it also to the recording and making sure that that is there. So if people watch the YouTube, they can also be able to reach you easily on that piece of it.
Okay, I am putting in there. So I have, I'll just say it out loud if that's okay too. So I've got my email address is dawnrasmussenforcongress@gmail.com. And then the website is dawnrasmussen.com. And for donations, I'm on ActBlue and I included that link. So it's Dawn Rasmussen-2 on ActBlue.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And if
I'm not
anybody
cutting you
listening
guys
feels
off.
like they, what's that?
I said, I'm not cutting you off or anybody else off. I'm just,
Yep.
if you have questions, please speak up right now. Or take another
And
gulp of coffee.
if
Oh,
you feel like
yes.
what you've heard today resonates with you, then obviously I can't do this alone. So I look at that this whole campaign is our campaign. It's not my campaign. I'm here to represent the people. So that's why I sent my ActBlue account there. So thank you for considering to donate.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions for anything?
Crickets.
Well, with that, Dawn, do you have any last comments you want to leave with us?
You know, I did not start this whole campaign as a career move. It's because I really genuinely care about my community, my neighbors, and my state. And so that's where I'm going with this. It's I believe this is the time to stand up for our country, and that's what I'm doing.
Thank you. We appreciate that. So with that being said, first off, thank you, Dawn, for coming on this early in the morning.
You got it.
I know it is a little early, especially as it gets dark, Scott. Yes, it make it a little bit harder to rise when the sky is still dark outside. Believe me, I know. But with that, and here's once again, if you guys have any ideas for speakers, if you have questions, please send them to me and I will do my best and we'll go from there. But everyone, have an amazing week. We only have 2 days left. Tomorrow is First Friday, so there is a bunch of things going on. And tomorrow is the initiative and effort for Breast Cancer Month. So wear your pink and come and support our local downtown businesses while supporting an amazing cause that helps people and makes a difference. So that is going on with our downtown. And then, of course, there is a ton of events happening this entire month. So please check out the DallesChamber.com. There's a community calendar. We try to make sure that that thing is up and full of information. So there is, if you are bored, then you and I need to have a chat because there's no room for boredom with that calendar whatsoever. And then the chamber is doing their networking events like normal. We'll do a reminder next week as we get closer. And with that, everybody have a fantastic Thursday. And hopefully I'll see you wandering around tomorrow night at First Friday. Thank you guys so much.